Batman Caped Crusader is amazing. Kind of. Allow me to elaborate. Batman Caped Crusader was developed by Bruce Timm, who of course produced Batman the Animated Series and Batman Beyond. It premiered this year in August, meaning it's still relatively new, and aired on Amazon Prime. The show itself is a noir-inspired reimagining of the Batman mythos, focusing on a young Batman during the early stages of his career in crime fighting, drawing a lot of inspiration from the Batman stories of the 40s and the 60s. So already, if you're a fan of Batman during the Golden Age, or you're just really old, then this show is for you. Another thing to mention is that, of course, with the unfortunate passing of Kevin Conroy, this is a new Batman voice actor, Hamish Linklater, who was apparently in Battleship and Legion, so make of that what you will. But it is worth saying that as a kid, Linklater was a massive Batman the Animated Series fan, and was at one point obsessed with it. So it bodes well for the show that the main voice actor and the series producer, being Bruce Timm, love the source material and have a big history with it, because without that, many of these kind of projects just tend to end up nothing like its inspiration. Now, I'm not going to go through every single episode and talk about how great it is, because that is disingenuous and quite frankly untrue. Not every episode is a banger. In fact, the pilot of the show isn't great. I wouldn't blame people who only watch the first episode and not continue the show, because it is a weak starter. But if you're able to push through that, you'll see this show has a lot to offer. Obviously, it's very hard to live up to the predecessors, but just because it isn't as good as Batman the Animated Series or Batman Beyond does not mean it's a bad show by any means. I will be specifically talking about the Season 1, Episode 10 finale, which, in my opinion, is objectively the best episode and is the best representation of the potential that this show has. Now, without spoiling too much, Episode 10, entitled Savage Night, is basically about Batman and Barbara Gordon protecting the very one Harvey Dent so he's able to testify in court. However, that's easier said than done because mob leader Rupert Thorne and his men, alongside some crooked cops, are out to silence Harvey Dent. Now, this episode in particular perfectly encapsulates the theme of Batman in general. This idea that law enforcement and the justice system is broken and that some kind of reform is needed so it can be fixed, as it is being continually abused by those trusted to protect it. In this case, it's the GCPD who is at the heart of Gotham's failures and corruption. There's criminals such as Rupert Thorne with large amounts of wealth who can influence City Hall, displaying a pretense that those of a higher social class receive a better treatment. But contrastingly, the person fighting this system the most is billionaire Bruce Wayne as Batman. There's some wonderful irony showing just how amazingly written this episode was. So here we have it, a broken system needing reform, which due to its own failures is responsible for the creation of the Batman, driven by the need to enact justice, which was so aptly not enforced the night on Crime Alley, where Thomas and Martha Wayne were shot to death, orphaning a young Bruce Wayne. And wrapped up in all of this is Harvey Dent, the DA, who also seeks justice but a different kind of justice. Now, this might technically be a spoiler, but I'm pretty sure everyone is aware of Harvey Dent's origin. In this, he runs for mayor and gets on the bad side of Rupert Thorne, the crime mob boss who controls Gotham. Then he gets half his face burnt off, and then goes on a murderous rampage trying to enact his own sense of justice based on what his sick morality deems as fair. Now here is a spoiler, so skip ahead to the time on screen if you don't want the ending spoiled. The episode ends with the death of Harvey Dent, but it's not his typical death as Two-Face. It's more of a redemption. I think it's done on purpose, but I'm not sure, as his arc in the show is a very clear reference to the Dark Knight's infamous quote, "You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain." In this he kind of does both, but the quote is still very appropriate as Harvey Dent sacrifices himself to save Barbara Gordon. Now, sometime after this, you have Rupert Thorne relaxing in a tower, presumably built by his criminal empire. Because of spoiler reasons I discussed, I will not mention what happens earlier, but all of a sudden, a batarang crashed through the window, cutting his ear, and the camera pans across the street to Batman standing there as lightning flashes across the sky. Again, another really nice homage to the original series, and there's several of these throughout the show, so if you're a fan of Batman the Animated Series like me, then you will definitely enjoy the references and the Easter eggs. Also, elsewhere, at the end, there's seemingly a reference to another classic Batman villain, before the show ends with maniacal laughter alongside several gunshots, so you can kind of see where that is going. Overall, the series is far from perfect. There's certain characters that aren't completely faithful, but just keep in mind that's your reimagining of Gotham. Also, there is this really funny scene where you have Barbara Gordon handcuffing Harvey Dent's left hand, and then she gets in to drive a car. But how is she driving a car with her hand reaching across her chest? Like, what? Her left hand is handcuffed to Harvey Dent, and then she gets in a car to drive. It doesn't really make sense, but again, that's a minor thing, and there is a bigger problems with this show that I won't go into. So if you plan on watching this, expecting it to be like Batman the Animated Series or Batman Beyond, you will be disappointed. So just go with it, go with an open mind, and you'll probably enjoy it. Thus I say to you, Batman Cape Crusader is amazing, kind of.